What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Open Ice Hits. I can't wait to dissect the drama that we have today in the NHL. And we're going to start with the New York Islanders. Before we do that, Durso, it's a lovely Sunday. The weather is getting so beautiful. I'm going on strolls. How about this? I went on a 4-mile walk the other day through the local park that has all these trails. I came home. I was beat, dude. My ass were so sore. I couldn't move for like a full day. But how's your Sunday going? How's your week going with this nice weather going?
It's been nice. I mean, the time difference today has been kind of killing me a little bit on this Sunday. You know, we're back. I mean, here's the thing that I like about it though, because I like as soon as I started to drive down to games at like 5 o'clock and the sun's still out and it's not dark like it is in the dead of winter. I like that. I like that shift toward spring a little bit. So now it's going to be light out even later. You know, once we're done doing this, I'm going to go up and probably have dinner and be able to go outside maybe a little bit and stuff like that. So it'll be nice. Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah, I love these fresh air walks. And I almost feel, because of the whole COVID stuff, like this park that we go to around my area, it's so huge. There's like 30 baseball fields, 2 football fields, a skate park, basketball courts, all these trails. There's a pond for fishing, and they keep building onto it. They're doing even more. There's more construction, and I feel because of COVID, everyone wants that fresh air. Everyone wants to go for a walk, and it's almost like I think it'll be utilized 10,000 times more than it already was just because people have been quarantining for so long.
Oh, you got a pond for fishing at this park near you,
yeah.
huh? I'm jealous. I'm jealous about this one. Then
some largemouths. You know what I'm saying?
That's what you're going for, largies?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, look, I'll tell you this. I'm your casual fisher where I'm not
same here, but
I'm no wicked tuna guy coming in wheeling in a 600-pounder, but I love to just go out, largemouths, go to the local place, grab some worms, toss them out, get the country going, a little Keith Urban, maybe a little Kenny Chesney. You know what I'm saying?
Not Brad Paisley?
I can do some Brad Paisley.
He's got a song called The Fishing Song. You gotta go with that.
I'm thinking alcohol. Alcohol.
Oh, okay. Well,
you know?
Of course your mind's on alcohol.
What's that supposed to mean? You think I have an issue?
I'm kidding.
I don't have an issue. I might have in the past, but I don't anymore.
Okay.
All right, let's get into
just having fun.
Let's get into some hockey, Durso. Let's talk about it because right now in the Eastern Conference, in the Eastern Division, whatever the hell they're called this year, you have
East Division.
Yeah, I know. It's just what isn't there supposed to be, by the way, all of these brands that sponsored them that nobody ever even mentions at all?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know. Exactly. You're right. There's these, I can tell you right now, as someone who I guess covers the league as much as the East Division because of the Flyers and stuff like that. I've never mentioned those sponsorships once when I talk about those divisions. I just say East, Central, West, North, and call it right there. Most of the time,
business.
I mean, we've talked about the North Division, if you will. Half the time, we don't even say that. We say the Canadian Division because that's just where our mind goes. It's Canadian teams, so let's just call it what it is, right?
I would love to go through the information to see how much these businesses actually paid for these type of sponsorships because you're right, not a soul thinks about it. But the point is, bringing up this Eastern Division, this East Division, the Islanders right now are up at the top and they're cruising. They continue to win a lot of hockey games. And I hate to be this guy, but I look at the Islanders and I feel similar to what happened to the Montreal Canadiens earlier in the season. They were just on a tear and on a stretch, but I didn't think that's who they truly were. And I also tie the Islanders a little bit to what we see in Toronto, where, okay, we know that you're good and can win regular season games. Can you get over the hump in the playoffs? So while they're so hot, and Anders Lee, their captain, on LTIR, which is huge, I just don't believe in them. And I wonder if I'm a bad person for saying that.
I think you are because, well, here, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they're playing a game as we record this, right? They just started a game. First of all, I just saw come through Twitter, Pajot is on the COVID list. So that's new, and that's another development and another piece of the puzzle that's not part of the lineup for right now. Anders Lee is out long-term. So, I mean, Pajot hopefully is not as long-term, and hopefully it's a short thing, but he was an unexpected absence. Now, also, as I just said that, Kiefer Bellows scored a goal already, so they're already winning 1-0.
Who are they playing today?
They are playing... Hang on, I got Saturday still. They're playing the Devils. So
come on. You beat the Devils. You beat the Sabres. Yeah. Show me this against the Bruins and the Caps. That's what I'm saying.
Well, they have shown it against the Bruins,
I
though.
know.
They've played some really good games against the Bruins.
I know they have.
And there was a part of me when I watched this team in person earlier, when they played the Flyers a couple times, when they've played games against other teams that I've seen them lose before and things like that, that just was like, this doesn't feel like the same team as the playoffs last year. It's a lot of the same players. It doesn't feel like the same team right now. Something doesn't make sense. And now it makes a lot of sense. They just got off to a bit of a slower start. And now they're rolling. They're doing exactly what you expect. And that's so much. I mean, first of all, when Kiefer Bellows, I think now that's his third goal in the last 2 nights already. Like, that's incredible to begin with, that they're getting that. They're getting, they're getting Oliver Wahlstrom to come through too. There's another guy who everybody was waiting for him to take that jump, first round pick, highlight reel kind of guy with all the goal scoring he did coming through. Jeez, I gotta stop looking at Twitter right now because the Devils just tied the game up.
Yeah. Get the Twitter off. You're getting distracted.
No, it's not. I'm getting distracted. Every time I look, there's another Islander update. This is craziness. But nonetheless, they're getting production from those guys, which really says a lot. This is the Barry Trotz thing. It like really is. He just is such a good coach that they play such a style. It's weird. It's weird to look at it and see that the Devils like just responded and tied the game 1-1 or something like that. And they were trailing in the Saturday game too for a little while. It was 1-0 for a long time. Then it was 2-1. And eventually they won the game 3-2. But it's this almost this style, like you don't expect them to give up a lot of goals. You know what I mean? Like, that they're a tough defensive team. They just are. And it really says a lot to me when they're able to do some of the things they've done over the past, like, they made a trade that involved Devon Toews and they moved him to Colorado, and the defensive side doesn't miss a beat. They still get it from Nick Leddy and Pelech and Pulak and Mayfield. And I mean, that's a real legit top 4 as it is. And Leddy's probably not even part of the top 4 anymore because Dobson keeps rising to the occasion. So there's 5 good ones right there that all seem to keep going and seem to keep doing better and better as each game goes on. And then their forward group's really good. We already talked about Lee and what an absence he is. Pajot, Bavillier is actually kind of had it
with Barry Trotz and all. Is like, yes, they suffocate you and then they pounce and they make it so they limit your scoring chances. And then when they finally get one, Barzal, Anders Lee, they're out there making plays. But I just wonder, and this kind of ties to things we've said before about when you're a younger team. We brought this up with Minnesota, where you do rely on some of these younger guys. And not that this team does to that level where Minnesota is with Greenway and Parise more taking a back step, and now it's all the younger guys. It's not that way with the Islanders. But Barry Trotz's system, they were able to execute it, and they won that Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals. And I think that worked because when you look at the depth and the veteran players and those players in TJ Oshie, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, John Carlson, that type of firepower, it really worked and got them to win that cup after some disappointing playoff rounds against the Penguins. And they really had to learn from it and finally figure it out. They had to go through that to figure it out. With this team, it's different. They don't have that same type of firepower. Yeah, they do have good forwards. And yeah, they do have good defensemen and good decor. But I think it's significantly different than what they had in Washington. And I don't know if it's enough to be able to really do it in the postseason. Because I don't know if they have enough firepower. I think they have nice pieces. But do they ultimately have enough, quantity of firepower? Or just Barzal? And like you bring up Pajot. He's a nice player. But I don't know if he's, we talk about having some legitimate insane talent up at the top. Besides Barzal and Anders Lee, even he doesn't pop in terms of a sexy player out there. Do they have enough up top?
I think they do. And Barzal's the superstar. He's the
Definitely.
guy who leads the way. I'm not going to say, anything different than that. He's the superstar player. Lee is really a good leader for this kind of team. And then you throw in the other guys, Josh Bailey, Brock Nelson. Those are guys who contribute in big ways. And Pajot's a good one. I mean, honestly, Bavillier is another one who comes to mind. And he's kind of had a down year because he missed some time and he's still working his way back and things like that. It's really interesting to watch how even when one guy, two guys, they're losing firepower right now. They don't have Anders Lee. Bavillier was out of the lineup for a period. He's still working his way back to getting into a rhythm. Sometimes Bailey goes stretches without finding a way to score a goal, or Nelson does. And yet someone else seems to be there to pick up the pieces and find a way to make it work. And they score just in, they don't really blow teams away. They score just enough to establish where they are,
And that's
then
what
lock
scares
it
me.
down.
And that's what scares me, though, because while I understand how great their system is, I guess this is where I have changed as a sports fan, as someone who covers sports, is I have now come to conclusion after realizing it so many times and being fooled, quite frankly. You can't put a lot of stock into what happens in these regular season games. While that's what you're supposed to enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, watch them go through 82, see the up and downs, see how they respond from adversity. At the end of the day, there's only so much that you can really apply from what you see in regular season to the postseason. And you're right, they just do enough to win in regular season games. And they might just do enough to win a round or so in the playoffs to make them a team that's constantly in there. But if we're talking about the ultimate prize, is just doing enough to beat some of these other average playoff teams enough to win you that championship. And that's where I'm having the trouble being convinced that this Islanders team has enough. Because look, they were up 3-0 against the Flyers last year, right? And it took them to 7. Now, I know that there's great teams that have some bad moments throughout playoff runs, and they ultimately won the 7-game series, and that's all that matters. But that's the kind of holes that, I don't know, if you're a real contender, do you let that slide at all to get to 7?
I don't think they do just enough to win games defensively. That's the thing that I think is their calling card. It's they might score just enough to win games. Like they'll give them, like, if they cap out at 3 goals a night and you go, well, all you can do is allow 2 or less, then they find a way to lock it down a lot of times. That's the thing that makes them so tough to play against. It's so hard to score against them that they don't have to do too much. And there are nights where they do. There's nights when they do score 4 or 5 and they win a game 4-1 or 5-1 or something like that. And then it doesn't matter. Then it looks good. But it doesn't happen that frequently for a team that has been on such a tear. Like, if you go and look at their last few games, it's going to be this kind of method of how many close games have they played? You look, 3-2 against New Jersey, they're 2-1 against Boston. And I'm not talking about beating Buffalo 3 times in a row, 5-2. That's a different animal when the talent level is that offset. But they're beating. I mean, they beat New Jersey a couple weeks ago, 2-1, 2-0 against Pittsburgh. Like, it's these low scoring, very tight games, and that's how they go out and conduct their business, kind of. And then you get every so often you get that outlier game, which is 7-2 against Boston, where everything goes right, especially in the third period. And they close it out just like they should. But everything else is like these really low scoring games. They don't score a lot. They don't give up a lot typically. And that's how you got to beat them. And I mean, doesn't it almost feel like, I mean, the Flyers won a game against them earlier in the year, 4-3 in overtime. Doesn't it feel like 4 goals is an accomplishment against that team just for the way they defend? Strictly that. I mean, obviously, the rest of it is they only scored 3 goals that night, and if they would have scored a few more, maybe had the firepower for it, gotten more bounces, whatever you want to call it, they would have won the game. But they defend so well that it's an accomplishment to sit there and say you need to score 4 to win the game, and then you do. That's the big accomplishment to me. So that's why I find them to be such a tough team. I really, I think a lot of people thought I was nuts for saying this was one of the teams I thought was going to make the playoffs easily out of the East, and they're showing you right now why, because they are that kind of team defensively that they can just get on a roll and establish their position. Look how far up they are on the first team out of the playoffs. They've got an 11-point margin between them and the playoff line. So there you go. Like, that to me is how they establish themselves. And then once they do get into the playoffs, you're right. Take all the stock from the regular season games out of play and watch and see what they can do in the playoffs. Because if they get on that same kind of roll in a series or a couple of series, they're on their way to playing, who knows, down the road to get to the Stanley Cup final and try to win a Stanley Cup. And they've got the right guy behind the bench to do it.
Yeah, oh, no, there's no doubt. I trust their head coach. I trust their system. I think I just questioned the full roster. I think they're a good team. Let's be clear. They're a good team. They're a playoff team. Are they the team, though? And I guess I just relate them to an NBA team that doesn't have, and I know Barzell is nasty, and I know that they do, but it takes more than that in the NHL than just one guy. And I almost relate it to when the Toronto Raptors, before they won a championship with Kawhi Leonard, what did they have? They had Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. They were the first, second, third seed. They were always hanging around the top. But when it got to the playoffs, it wasn't like they had that power. They didn't have enough. And with this Islanders team, I categorize them as a team that has a style of play that is boring, that suffocate you, that typically it wins you hockey games because of the way that they really do make it uncomfortable for you to get all of these grade A scoring chances. But will it be able to be applied the same way when things matter? And how about goaltending? Because their system is fantastic and it makes it easier for goalies. But we know that goalies can win you championships. We've seen it all around. We've seen Jonathan Quick as an 8th seed. You need that goalie. Is Varlamov that type of goalie that you think tied together with this style of play is something that can hoist the Lord Stanley?
Well, you made me laugh with that comment because it's exactly the words that I love to use about it. It's boring, but it works. It is boring sometimes, but it works wonders for that team. I do think that Varlamov is a good enough goalie to do it. I think he's shown that before, and they always had. I like the fact that he kind of feels like the guy who's been given the reins now, as opposed to years. But like it felt like in years past, a couple of years that Barry Trotz has been with that team, that it's kind of always a question. Who's the goalie? And then it was very much a routine. Varlamov, Thomas Greiss. Varlamov, Thomas Greiss. And they would just keep going in that rotation for 3/4 of the year almost. And I like that Varlamov feels like the guy right now, because that to me puts it into his head that this team has total confidence in him. And that's not to say that Sorokin's not good. He is, and he can be. He's so young and they're trying to mold him. I almost I look at Sorokin the same way that I look at a UC Saros, kind of, in the sense that the guy who's in front of you has an established career as a veteran, has been good enough in this league to be able to succeed at a high level. And now you've got to get the next guy, whoever that may be, to get into position to be there when the time comes, when you need to make that transition. It's, and Washington's another good example of this, because Washington did the same thing sort of with Holtby, and Holtby's a lot younger than, say, a Varlamov or a Rene when this would happen, but you had Holtby, and Holtby eventually was not the guy anymore. Here comes Ilya Samsonov. Now he's going to be the guy, right? So I feel like that's what they're doing with Sorokin for now, but it makes Varlamov very much the guy that they lean on and they go to, and that can boost the confidence of a goaltender and take him to that next level when the playoffs hit. So I do think he's capable, and I think that that's the one thing I like about the Islanders when it comes to looking at their roster construction. They've got forwards who do know how to score and do have skill and speed and all the qualities you need in the league right now. They've got a good defensive core and they've got good goaltending. So they've got something at every single position. It's not like they have many holes.
No, I agree with you with that, and I just think that they're a solid team. Like, that's how I think I describe them. They're a solid team that right now is putting on a nice streak. And maybe I'm scarred by the Flyers. I've seen the Flyers win 10 in a row and not make the playoffs. I've seen the Flyers lose 10 in a row and then they ended up winning or making the playoffs. So when I see a team have this stretch in the regular season that puts them above everybody else, and right now we're looking at them like, wow, look at this team, and some are, not me, but some are like, wow, look at this Islanders team. It's, yeah, well, guess what? I've seen teams do this and fail miserably. I've seen teams do way worse than this and actually succeed more. So that's where I think I'm just applying everything that I've seen now that I'm starting to, cover the leagues more and study the ins and outs of all of these ups and downs throughout sports in general. And that's why I need to be proven. I need time. I need to see it. I need a bigger window. I need a huge sample size. I need to see things way longer before I start to commit. Unless you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, I know you're going to win the Stanley Cup because it's my second favorite team or my first favorite team. I don't know yet.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of the last show's conversation then, because what you're looking for, it sounds like, is exactly what we need to see from Toronto and Edmonton. You're not that team until you get to the regular season's all well and good. Get to the playoffs and then show me where you go, right? So Toronto's still that team until they win a playoff series, and Edmonton's still that team until they get to the conference final or the Stanley Cup final with McDavid and Draisaitl, and you go, okay, now they're there. Now they're on that next level. I think that's the Islanders too. They're the thing that's different, and I know where you're going at with the Flyers and the 10-game win streaks where you don't make the playoffs and the 10-game losing streaks where you do. They've always been a team that when really broken down in those years, there was always a flaw somewhere. There's a hole in the roster somewhere. And you go, it's whether it was a goaltending. I mean, one of those years was 8 different goaltenders playing for that team, and they made the playoffs anywhere. They missed the playoffs because they used 8 goaltenders, and there's the hole. Or they made the playoffs because they picked up somebody, or the forwards came together and started to produce more often, and they were outscoring teams, and that's where it is. I don't see a hole with the Islanders. That's the thing that really separates them to me. And I do think there's an irony to us talking about this right now and looking at the standings and realizing that they are the only team in the East Division right now that's gotten to that 28 game mark where it's exactly halfway through the year. They've made it to the halfway point with an 11-point margin on the playoff line. They don't need to prove much more to me about being a playoff team. And I know you've said that too. But I've already kind of jumped to the playoffs with them. Like, they're going to be there. That's just fact. They're going to be there. And I don't see them having a slump that lasts too long, that pushes them way below. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that at 40 points halfway through the year and leading the division that they're going to win the division. I don't know if they're going to win the division. I think that if, like, Washington's right on their heels, Boston's going to come back from this little slump they're on, and it'll all work out back to the way I think that we've thought it would be. Like, Boston will be challenging, Washington will be challenging, and the Islanders will be there, and they're probably going to be a top 3. But it's still not like, I don't see enough holes in their lineup to go, they're not making the playoffs, or just forget what they are and things like they're going to be a good team, and they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs if they continue at this level, because with how quickly they're going to play these next 28 as well, and how condensed the schedule is, if you're already getting hot and then you can keep it up for another month or two, that's basically all that's left. You could go in to the playoffs really riding a hot streak, and there is not going to be a pause this time around like there was last time. So it's not like it's going to be some newfound, like, that was, I think, the weird part with last year's playoff. It was like the Islanders had this newfound look where we came from out of nowhere, because at the time of the pause, they were struggling. They were on a losing streak. I think they had lost something like 6 of 8 or something like that. And then all of a sudden they were this upstart team that was barely above that normal playoff line that went on a run. And now they're actually showing what they're doing over the course of a regular season. And if they keep it up, it's going to be hard to beat them in the playoffs.
No, it definitely is. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a battle-worthy team. I don't think they just get, like, walked all over and swept in 4. I think they're going to give a team a run for their money. I just think that maybe they come up short based off of firepower. But I do know this. Losing your captain is definitely significant to the voice in the room and to the work ethic side of things. So we'll see, as he's on LTIR now, what does this mean? Who steps up? What's the leadership going to be like there? And we'll see how they bounce back. But since we brought up the Flyers, I think that they are a topic right now of discussion as well when you look at this East Division, because last year they made the playoffs, they lost in 7 to the Islanders, and they had this good momentum, and now Matt Niskanen retires on them, and they literally look like a disaster. Chuck Fletcher and Alain Vigneault, they're a hot topic here in the city. It looks like they're lost. AV is up there making this outrageous quote. Him, Claude Giroux, JVR, they're all saying the same thing. We're doing the right things to win hockey games. We're doing all the right things. In what universe? Durso, this team looks pathetic. And I don't even know what to say. Help me. I don't know what to say about this team.
Well, I can tell you with all authority, because I was there, that after those comments were made by coaching staff and players, there was audible discussion in the press box after that was over, because, okay, trending in the right direction. You're getting more shots on goal now than you were at the beginning of the year, and you are suppressing more shots defensively. So you're allowing fewer, and yes, you've outchanced teams more often than not. What hasn't changed and what hasn't trended in the right direction is the amount of turnovers you have per game, the way your special teams performs, your breakouts, your ability to win battles, all of that. And then on top of it, your goaltending save percentage has dropped. You're now not getting the goaltending performance on top of it. It is a fragile, beatable team that is very soft and easy to play against, because it's not difficult for teams like Washington, Pittsburgh, the Islanders to look and go, just win some battles, create some turnovers, be hard on the forecheck, go to the net, and all of it's easy to do. It's not hard for teams to crash the net against the Flyers. It's not hard to clog the neutral zone and create turnovers against the Flyers right now. The Flyers' biggest enemy is themselves, because they shoot themselves in the foot so many times, and it's baffling. It's really baffling how a team that looked so sound and so crisp throughout the stretch run going into the bubble and into the pause has turned into this. And it really, to me, I don't even bring up Matt Niskanen anymore, because one player doesn't transform your team like that. There's no way. It's way bigger than Matt Niskanen retiring. It's way bigger than something as simple as coaching or something like that. These are fundamental mistakes.
Do we have to strip the C?
I don't know if I would go that far because it's, and mainly
I'm poking fun at the
Oh,
people
I know.
that use that as like the number one issue.
No, but he should be on blast too, though, because
Sure.
it's a team-wide thing. Like, he made a drop pass that was a turnover.
You know what, though? You know what? People are ripping him for it. That was a shit pass by Voracek to even lead into. And as soon as Giroux had the puck, there was someone literally right there on his stick instantly within seconds.
Yeah.
I don't even think Giroux had a chance to make any sort of play where I think I'd bash Voracek along the wall to even try and give Giroux that puck in the middle as he's swinging.
Well, let's go one step further on that particular goal, by the way, because you used to play. If you didn't come on the ice for 19 seconds when it's your turn for a shift, do you think you're seeing the ice for the rest of the night?
You're not seeing the ice for weeks. I think Aubé-Kubel, if you're a fourth liner, and look, I don't even think it matters if you're a first, second, third liner, but you are a nobody. And I think he was technically a third liner anyway last night or whatever, but he's a no one. Aubé-Kubel is a nobody. The fact that you are playing in the NHL and you're this role and you're in the bottom six, how are you not ready to go your next shift? I mean, I think I would be too prepared and maybe even overthinking my next shift if I'm in the position that Aubé-Kubel was in.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because it's one thing if it's Sean Couturier, and not that it would happen to Sean Couturier, but there's an established part of his game, right? You're established as a top line player. Mistakes happen. You brush it off. He comes back more determined. You maybe you put him on the bench for the next shift, and then you say, go back out there and be better, right? Because he's been around the block. It's a mistake. This is a guy who has to play for his life every night, essentially. When you're in the bottom six, you're playing for your life every single night at the NHL level. And this is 2 games in a row for him, because he also made a really bad pass to Travis Sanheim the game before that led to a transition rush and handcuffed him. Totally handcuffed him. There was no way for Sanheim to make a play. It's very much like you said, the way that Giroux had no time to react to that drop pass either. So he tries his best to get it away from himself to somebody with open space, and it was to nobody. I mean, that's the type of stuff that's just killer. And yeah, the one thing I think I mentioned in my takeaways article from that game was, I agree with James Van Riemsdyk with one thing he said. Yeah, it does seem like every mistake is ending up in the back of their net right now. That's true. And that doesn't happen all the time. That's correct. It's really, things are really bad when every single mistake is going in the net. But it is happening with so much frequency that it's hard to ignore. I mean, I've told you about this, Brodes. When I'm going to get ready to write these articles after the game was over, I shouldn't be able to go back on the film and let's go this way. I don't know how your view of it is, but I'm sure that as, the player media dynamic is, I'm the commoner compared to the guy who actually goes out there and does it for a living. But if I can see the missed coverage, if I can see the turnover that starts the problem, then everybody can see it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how obvious it is what they're doing. And that's the most frustrating part, is it's so brutally obvious where they're struggling.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. It's like, even when JVR scored the other night against, why am I drawing a blank? Who did they just play here?
Washington,
yeah. So they I forget who it was, but they turned the puck over in the slot. JVR turns around, rips it, and scores a goal. It's like,
last night Daniel Sprong turned it over.
Yeah, that's right. Because Sprong actually scored the first goal where Nolan Patrick turned it over in the neutral zone.
Yeah,
Brian Elliott should have made the save, and it went over him. He was a disaster with all of the rebounds that he allowed. But my point is, you see what happens when it happens to you. There's a turnover. JVR gets it. He puts it past, and you're up, or you tie the game. And then how about just allowing goals after you score? I've never seen it at this pace. They score, and then within 25 seconds, it's the lead's lost, or it's 2-1, or it's 3-2. What is going on? I'm so bothered by that. I'm also bothered by this with Alain Vigneault. And maybe I'm looking into it too much, but I don't think Scott Laughton should play more minutes than Claude Giroux. And I know Claude Giroux, I'm not begging for the guy to be logging in top line Sean Couturier spot as that first center or logging in 20-plus minutes. But I do feel that when Kevin Hayes, Scott Laughton, those guys are playing more than G, look, that's not working. So I don't know. Am I maybe giving Giroux too much credit for where he is in his career right now? But I think he should be playing more than Scott Laughton.
It's a tough call because Lawton's come a long way over the years. He actually is one of the few guys who sometimes, in a game when it doesn't look like anybody has a pulse, looks like he has a pulse. So I'll give him that. It's hard to structure who you think should play. I'll give you a hot one for you. I don't think Ivan Provorov should be on the power play for this team, and I'll tell you why. Because in the same sense that you wanted to value Claude Giroux's minutes, right? Especially as he gets older and later in his career. So you take him out of the penalty kill situations, so he's fresher for the power plays and the end of game in the third period, right? Ivan Provorov can be in the same situation if you told him your only job is penalty kill and 5-on-5. You're not on the power play. So if they get a power play, you've got a roster with 2 power play specialists. You got Shane Gostisbehere and Eric Gustafsson, who are defensemen who can actually perform on the offensive side. That's what they're on the roster for.
Well, what if Gustafsson scratched? Let's say, hypothetically, because I understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say Gustafsson is scratched one night, because there's not many nights where Ghost and him are in. Well, nowadays, it's like a big circle, and some nights they are, some nights they're not. Prosser might be out there. He's not playing power play minutes unless, just kidding. But if, let's say, Gustafsson is scratched, then what would you do?
Well, all right. There's 2 problems I have with what you just said. One, if Eric Gustafsson is scratched this often, then what did you give him a $3 million contract for? Honestly, that's money wasted.
You were desperate once Niskanen retired.
Then honestly, your better choice was to go into the year with your 7th defenseman as Mark Friedman and stick to it.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but
okay, that's the first part. The second part is it's so telling to say Nate Prosser is going to start over Robert Haig and Eric Gustafsson when you don't where did he even come from? You know what I mean? And I'm not I know where he came from. That's not what I'm saying, but it's where in the rotation was he supposed to be that you're actually choosing to play him over? And I can understand you're going to sit there and say guys are banged up and you're trying to get rotation in because it's a lot of games in a short amount of time. But you got to put the best lineup out there and stick with it. Do you think that the Washington Capitals sat there and said, Nick Jensen's been playing an awful lot lately. We got to put him on the shelf for Siegenthaler. Siegenthaler dressed as an emergency on Thursday because Lars Eller returned home for a family matter. So he was out. Do you know how much ice time Jonas Siegenthaler had in the game? Did you see this?
What's the time on ice?
27 seconds.
That's impressive.
And do you know when the 27 seconds was? The last 27 of the game. He rode the bench the entire time.
It's amazing.
So what does that tell you? Yeah. I don't need to play this guy because I've got 6 others who do the job, and then I don't have to worry about it. And that's the difference. That's what's really bothersome as well. But yeah, I don't know about it. I don't know if it's about the usage or whatever when it comes to it. Like you're mentioning Giroux in comparison to Lawton. It's so much beyond that type of stuff. That it kind of is overthinking it to an extent because realistically, you shouldn't have to limit anybody's minutes. What they did so well a year ago was create offensive cycles and forechecking pressure that they were able to just get the puck into the zone and then move on to the next line in 30 seconds. And it was balanced. Now they're having sustained shifts and we're going, why is Scott Lawton out there longer than Claude Giroux? Actually, it's probably not because they're using him more often. It's because they can't get off the ice. They're in their own zone too often. Or they turn it over and they have to back check and then they don't get a line change, and that's when they back check,
it's all good points. Like I'm looking here and I'm looking through the 4. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. There are a few things that I can't stand more than watching the lack of fundamentals from any team. If I'm watching any team, if it's, and this is the thing that's really should bother a lot of people is they just lost 3 games this week to Washington. And there's a lot of people are out there today saying, oh, they're not even now. It's the same thing that they say when talking about Boston. They're not on that level. They're not on that level. Here's the thing that I noticed when watching Washington. Washington's not that great of a team either. Like they're not that high of a level above. It's just, it looks that way when you make that many mistakes because you mentioned the turnover right there. So Sprong turns it over and Van Riemsdyk gets a goal. They made plenty of mistakes too. You just didn't capitalize on them. That's the difference. And no pun intended there on using the word capitalize when talking about the Capitals.
No, I agree with you, though, because my big thing is everyone keeps coming at me because I'm like, I don't know if because people are saying the Flyers aren't a playoff team. And I go, well, are the Penguins that good? No, they have so many problems. They have so many issues. Are these other teams that good? And where the Flyers are now, I think the top three probably are solidified with Boston, Washington, and the Islanders, so it probably is one spot available. But if you look at the Penguins, to make it seem like the Penguins have no flaws and they are that much better than you, no, they have problems too. So there are other teams that are in the playoff mix that have problems. That's what gives me hope for the Flyers. But when I watch them, they mess up simple breakout passes. It's crazy. And you hit on the depth. So you have someone like Nolan Patrick. Like, I was excited because I thought you could have Couturier, Hayes as your two centermen for your top six. You could have Patrick as your third line center. Giroux could play wing. And then you have like this good depth of your top nine being like really solid. And now you got Nolan Patrick as your fourth line center who stinks. He stinks. He is bad. He is not good. And Claude Giroux now has to go back to the center position as your third center, which isn't a bad spot to be in. But if you can have him play on the wing with someone like Hayes or Cooch or whatever, even though Cooch's line is playing amazing with JVR and Farabee, the lack of depth is crushing this team for what they did last year so well, getting up in on the forecheck, throwing the body a little bit more, and it just evaporated. Everything from last year just evaporated.
Now, you're going to think I'm crazy for saying these words, but you'll understand where I'm going when I explain it. I'm comparing the Flyers to the Boston Bruins right now. And I know that doesn't sound like something that makes a lot of sense, but hear me out. So the Boston Bruins have a line that's really, really good, right?
Yes,
they have three guys that do. And they have players on paper that you go, oh, Krejci's a second line center. Charlie Coyle's a third line center. Jake DeBrusk plays on the wing on the second line. You know, they've got talent. Right? They got a talented roster on paper. So why does it seem like a lot of times it's always the same three guys scoring? Now, I wouldn't touch their top line for obvious reasons. It's that kind of dominant. It's not, the Flyers don't have a line that matches that. But when you've got three guys that are running the show and you're struggling everywhere else, what does that tend to lead to? You know, if the Oilers are not getting success because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the same top line isn't always working every night to win games, what do? They break them up. At some point in time, you got to think this. And I honestly think that right now, based on the defensive style of play and the way that they've played defensively, Joel Farabee would be the guy who comes off the top line because he's missed some assignments in the last game that make me think not quite ready to be out on the, because Couturier is always out there against the top guy of the other side, right? So maybe Joel Farabee's not quite ready at this stage of his career for that defensive responsibility.
But he's playing so damn good offensively. It's like, do you mess up the mojo?
But spread the wealth, because I'm not seeing, you know, how long does it take before Travis Konechny gets the next goal? You know what I mean? And how long between games? You know, and sometimes they do. And that's what's been the most frustrating part of watching the team is they played 3 games against Pittsburgh. Now, one of them you had to come back like crazy to win the game. But the other 2 are there. You're right with the goals that come right after you score. You made it 3-2 in the third period against Pittsburgh on the first game of that 3-game series. You gave it right back. The game was essentially over right there. You won the game on Thursday. Then you played Saturday. And again, it wasn't necessarily giving one right back. Now, they did kind of in a way because they scored first, then gave it right back, and then trailed, but then got the lead back. It wasn't like they gave that 3-2 lead right back, but it's a late second period goal that should have been stopped by your goaltender. So there's the save percentage thing coming into play. And then all you had to do was win the final period, and the legs gave out, and you didn't win the final period. So you lost the game. But is it winnable? Yes, of course it is. It's there for the taking. It's a 3-3 game going to the third period. I saw the same thing with these other games. It's a 2-1 game against Washington on Sunday going to the third period. You work your way back into the other one to get it to 4-3 on Thursday, and you work your way back to getting it to 3-2, and then eventually 5-4 at the end. But you worked your way back. You're talking about 1 or 2 mistakes that ended up in your net away from winning those games.
Yeah.
So that's the fine line you're walking with. How good can you be when you're making a ton of mistakes and they're all ending up in the net and you're not cleaning up the mess that you're making? And it just continues to be a vicious spiral out of control because it's turned into, it's not like they just lost a couple of games this way. This is not like blowing the lead to Boston and going, oh, well, a couple bad things happened, but they went out and they won the next one. Or after 2 games against Boston, they won a few in a row and it took all of it away. It's not going away. You're 2-5 since beating Buffalo twice in one weekend, which is not really a major accomplishment anymore. And I mean, they're the worst team in the league right now,
Yeah, no, I
and
agree
that's
with you.
not an accomplishment. So
No,
that's where you are.
I'm with you there, and we'll end it on this. We'll end the Flyers point on this. You know, the whole
Yes.
battle back thing. It annoys me because Ghost gets destroyed by Jensen for a breakaway shot. Should have went in and went post in, probably not. But that's not the point. You get abused by Jensen off an offensive zone draw, and not only that, you lose a puck battle in front of the net by Hagelin, which resulted in a goal. But I'm supposed to be happy with you scoring a useless power play goal with just a couple of minutes left in the game with an extra attacker and all this that happens. Like, no, I don't care about that because you made 7 mistakes prior where I shouldn't be satisfied with your good old fight back when you made 30,000 mistakes out there to even put you in that situation. It's like, oh, congratulations, you put out the fire. You started the fire. So what am I supposed to do? Give you credit for it? And they don't even finish the job all the time. So regardless, look, we have Johnny Gaudreau joining us. That's exciting stuff. Because it's a weird transition. Flyers, Calgary Flames, we'll ease it into this. Austin Matthews, that game-winning goal in overtime. This is how we transition into the Canada division, which will bring us to Calgary. Dude.
Yes.
Ew! How did he go to his backhand that quick?
What did I call that when I tweeted about when you tweeted about it and I retweeted it?
I'm gonna check.
I said it was absolute filth, gorgeous filth. Like,
yeah.
Which it is. It's just that's beautiful. How missed was he, honestly, when he missed a couple of games? Like, and I'm not even talking about by the team. I'm just talking about how missed was he to have that entertainment. He's such an entertaining player.
He's my favorite player in the league right now, Durso. He really is. I love watching the kid play.
Wow. Wait,
yeah.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Over Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, he's more entertaining than Sidney Crosby is right now. I mean, that's not like a hot take, right? That's pretty standard. Entertainment value.
No, there's a reason to like him. I will give you that. There's definitely a reason to like him.
You think? There's also a reason to love Johnny Gaudreau. And how about that? How about that?
It's exciting too. Like you said, it's exciting to talk to him because it's been an interesting week as we documented a week ago, and it's been a good week for them.
Absolutely, it has been. They're coming off 2 solid victories against the Habs. So without further ado, let's toss it on over. And now joining us is Johnny Gaudreau of the Calgary Flames. As always, John, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're fantastic, as always. So let's start off here. You guys have a nice little 2-game win streak going, and Daryl Sutter behind the bench. What is it like now that you had some time to actually work with him on the ice in practice? As we saw the clip, a little bit of a tough one. No Coach Gee type of practice, but it was a good one. What's it like getting him on the bench now as you guys continue to move forward?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he's a well-respected coach. He's been in the league for a very long time. So to have him behind our bench, it's been great. He demands a lot out of his players, and if you're not playing well, he's gonna let you know. And there's no shifts where you have a bad shift and you're not gonna get away with it. He's gonna let you know. So it's been great.
Your first game with Daryl, I noticed you were on a line with Sean Monahan, which we've seen, but also with Brett Ritchie, and that's certainly a different combination than we've seen before. What was that experience like, and how's the early chemistry with you guys? Because it seemed like you guys were having some solid puck possession, and the cycle game looked strong as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Monty's got a great shot, and Ritchie, he's a big body. He can get in the corners and retrieve pucks pretty well. So, it's nice. We've played two games together now, so it's kind of nice to play with a single player and try to create some chemistry because before that me and Monty were kind of cycling through wingers throughout the season, so it's kind of difficult to get the chemistry there. So hopefully we can stick together and create some good chemistry and try to find the score sheet a little bit more.
I know I've asked you before about Sean Monahan, but being all that you guys have been through together, it's got to be pretty special to see him hit a milestone, scoring his 200th goal on Saturday night. What's that feeling like for you and the rest of the team?
Yeah, it's awesome. He's such a, he's a leader on our team. He's been on the team for 8 years now. So, I've gotten to play with him for 7 of the years that I've been in Calgary. So he's just a great friend, a really good player. So, and he's been a great part of this organization. So it's been a blast playing with him, and it's great to see him hit a milestone like that. Not many players do that, so we were excited for him in the locker room.
Yeah, I know I kind of joked around about the tough skate in the beginning, but what is that like? At the NHL level, I don't know, and you can tell us. I can't imagine there being too many like tough baggers as you start to get into a season, maybe beforehand when it's training camp and all, but as you kind of get into it, It's probably not normal, and maybe I'm wrong, like I said. So what is it like to have that type of tough skate mid-season?
Yeah, I mean, it's good at times. I mean, obviously this season we have a shortened schedule, a lot of games, not a lot of practices. So when you get your practice days, they're important. And we haven't had a skate like that in a while. So it was definitely something we needed. And it's we've been playing well. um, to start games here in the past 2 games with Daryl. So I think that's helped us. And like I said, I mean they're shorter practices, but at the end of practice, we'll do a little skate and it's good for us.
Andrew Mangiapane said after Saturday's win that it takes the whole team to get the swagger and confidence back. Did these first 2 games under Daryl show just how far you guys have come in that area already in such a short time with him behind the bench?
Yeah, you can tell the guys how the hard we work in practice and in games. Like I said a little earlier, I mean he demands a lot out of us, and he expects us to show up every day, whether it's practice, whether it's a game day. It doesn't matter to him. So he's going to bring a lot out of us, and he's done a great job with our team so far, and not where we want to be yet, but there's a lot of things we keep working on in practice, and it's been good.
Why don't you take us through this latest victory? You guys won 3-1 against the Habs. What did you see in that victory?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of dominated them in the first period. I'm not going to say dominated but we kind of outplayed them in the first period. And it was, the past 2 games here, we've come out really strong, and we scored, the first 3 goals there in that game last night, and took a 3-0 lead, and that was important for us. And then in the third, they kind of pushed back a little bit, but we didn't give them too much, and we tried to keep our offense going a little bit. But obviously, you're expecting a pushback from them, but it was a solid win for our team. I thought we played really well in all 3 zones. Our goaltender played amazing. He's always great back there. So it was a real good game for our team.
I'm going to shift ahead to this upcoming week. You got 2 big games with both Edmonton and Toronto on the schedule. Seems like the last 2 games you guys are playing with the renewed energy and purpose under the new coach. How great is it with this structure that you get to face this kind of challenge against 2 of the top teams in the division right now and right away under a new coach?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously we're chasing these guys in the standings, just like we did against Montreal the past 2 games. They were up 6 points on us, and we found a way to get them down to 2. And I think Edmonton might be 6-7 points up on us too. So we win these 2 games, and try not to go into overtime. We put ourselves in a really good position for the remainder of the season against these guys. And like I said a few times, I've been on with you guys. I mean, their 4-point games are critical. They're huge, and there's not a lot of season left here. So you gotta we're right around 500 right now. So these games are important for us, and we don't want them to get too big of a jump on us. So they're big games for us coming up.
Yeah, you guys are in the middle of this stretch playing a lot in Calgary, a few games in a row here at home. What is that like? Is there a comfort level? Do you think that plays a big role? Without the fans, I know we've been through that before, but, you're at home, you're comfortable, you're in your own place, you go to the arena, you go to the rink, you have this kind of, this schedule that you go on. Is that a big part of it, or not really so much without the fan level being there?
No, it's great. I mean, obviously you feel way more comfortable at home. You get to sleep in your own bed and this and that. But before this little home stretch we've had here, I think we played 6 or 7 more games on the road. So our schedule in the beginning of the season was pretty hectic. We were on the road a lot, a couple 7, 8, 9 day long road trips. So it gets tiring at times, but it's nice to have these these little stints like we have right now. I think we've been home for 6, 7 nights here, and we have like 3, 4 more. So it's nice to like I said, sleep in your own bed and have some home cooked meals and not have to eat at the
What the,
hotel.
whoa. What the hell are you cooking? Let me know. You buttered noodles?
I'm not cooking. Mary's
Yeah.
cooking, so I just got the dishes. But no, like I said, I mean it really is a big difference, playing on the road from home, even without the fans. I mean, you're eating a lot of meals at the hotel, and it's not the best food sometimes, but when you're at home, it's just a little bit different.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Brodes and I on the last episode talked about a big story going on around the NHL, and that's the US TV deal with ESPN. I know that in Canada, coverage of the NHL is certainly a different animal, but you grew up in the area, and I'm sure you were like us watching games on ESPN with regularity. What can this do for the exposure of the game?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like I said, I mean, the game's growing, and it's been great to see throughout the states. So, to have it on ESPN, obviously, and have them sign that deal, that's huge for our sport. And I can only imagine, the more chance people are going to be able to watch games in the states and stuff. So, I think that was awesome to hear.
Was there any game that you watched that was for a national audience on ESPN or ABC that stands out to you from when you were growing up, or any player that you had that you looked forward to watching whenever you could when their games were on national TV?
Oh, when I was younger, I was just a big Flyers fan, so I loved like LeClaire, Recchi, Danny Briere, all those guys. So, those are players that I loved watching when I was growing up. And, but yeah, whenever they're on TV, I try to catch them. Didn't go to as many games as a lot of kids do nowadays. But it was cool. Just being a younger kid, getting to watch these guys play games on TV. So, it's going to be great for the sport playing on ESPN.
Yeah, I always pictured Jeremy Roenick with that fantastic celebration running around. That's what stands out to me. But we'll leave you with this, Johnny. You guys allowed one goal in the last two games. Has there been a big shift on the focus defensively to really, focus in on that area under Daryl Sutter? Because, you only allow one goal. That's going to win you a lot of hockey games.
Honestly, no. I mean, we haven't really focused too much on our D zone. I mean, I think we're just, playing a lot harder in our D zone, and getting pucks out when it matters, and being smart with the puck at our blue lines, and those are important things in the game. So, and like I said, I mean, I think we're just really buckling down and just working a lot harder now, and it's great to see because it's helping us win games.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. It really is. There's nothing like a Calgary 10 o'clock start for me out here after the Flyers stink and lose. It's like, all right, here we go. Let's watch the Sea of Red. So, with that being said, John, thank you so much for joining us as always, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, I want to thank Johnny Gaudreau for coming on with us. I thought he had a little bit of comedy there with the whole cooking dinner. Come on now. There's no way he's cooking any sort of dinner. That's outrageous. But let me ask you this, Durso. Did anything stand out to you with any of his responses?
Yeah, it seems like they've got a renewed, like I asked about renewed purpose. It really seems like they do with Daryl Sutter behind the bench now. They seem determined. They've played two really good games this week. I wonder if that carries over, and I'm excited to see them play teams on that level, to play Edmonton and Toronto and see where it goes. And you know what I really want to actually, things that I really took away from that, honestly, when I asked him about the games coming up and I mentioned both teams, I mentioned Edmonton and Toronto, he only referred to the next two. Like, if we can win the next two against Edmonton, like, that tells me they're focused on the next one in line, not the long-term future, which is exactly the way you got to look at it. You can't get hopped up about Toronto still at the top, so let's just focus on how big those games can be. They're focused on the next one in line and getting back into this race, and it's cool to see them kind of already starting to make that climb, because they're right there now. Those two wins against Montreal were absolutely huge for them. They're 2 points back of that final playoff spot now, and there's a lot of time left. You got half the season to go. He's right. The games move by really quickly, but there's still a lot of time to go when you're 2 points out of the playoffs. They've got this, they kind of do. They have a little bit of swagger back now, and I'm interested to see if it carries over for another week, because they could be a really exciting team to watch now that they've got a guy who looks like he's helping them reach that potential behind the bench.
Yeah, I didn't even think about him not mentioning Toronto, and he just went right for Edmonton. That's a good pull by you. But I am so excited to see how they play against this team. There is this sense of urgency there. There is this different focus level. I was a little surprised when I asked the question about the D zone. Look, you guys allowed one goal against the Canadians in each of these games, one each. But still, that almost seems like, hey, there's a focus on this D zone. Let's then apply some transition play. Let's apply this offensive skill that we have that generates from good D-zone play. But he's like, no, honestly, we're just making better decisions. But it's nice to see, and I want to see this team battle up against Edmonton to see if they can continue to snowball and have this domino effect.
Well, and Vancouver played Edmonton really well, and knowing the way that Daryl Sutter seems to coach, they'll be watching that. They'll be looking at that.
They're going to score the same way that Who ended up actually getting the goal for the first goal?
Bo Horvat's goal?
Oh, yeah, Bo
I think that's
Horvat got it. Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'm looking at, I looked at the way they defended McDavid in that game, and they were physical on him. They were tough. And that kind of sounds like what he was talking about with how hard they're playing in the defensive zone and just all over the place. They're just playing hard, and that makes them tougher to play in all zones, not just defensively. And it seems to be the formula for beating a guy like McDavid, because when you can take away his space that quickly and force him to keep cutting back or turning back from the play and trying to reset as often as possible to try to get that look, they might have something there if they can follow that formula and they can continue to play hard. So, and not only that, but we've talked about this before, and this is a great way to leave it for the week or until our next show anyway, but we'll get into it. More Battle of Alberta, Gotta love it, right?
Yeah, it's the best, man. It really is. So you're right. It's a good place to put a stoppage out on it. So with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Open Ice Hits, and we will see you on Thursday's episode.